Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unleash Her. Hey, I'm Roberta, and I'm your host for the podcast today. And I'm so glad that you're here. And I cannot wait to introduce to you a friend of mine. But before we do that, please make sure that you are following this podcast. It is on all major platforms. And if you're not on YouTube, hop on over there so you can see our faces when we do the interview. It's Roberta Campbell Official at Roberta Campbell Official on YouTube. So hop on over there and check us out. Anyway, today I want to introduce you to Michelle Difilippo. She has more than 50 years of experience in book publishing. Her company, 1106 Design, makes it easy for authors to release a top quality book, keep control of it, and earn more money every time you sell a copy. So Michelle's on a mission to help authors ask the right questions to make informed decisions about publishing their books. Listen, stay tuned. She's going to have some information for us at the end where you can hear how to get your information. She has something a little special for you, a little gift. So stay to the end. Anyway, Michelle, welcome. And thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me, Roberta. I appreciate this opportunity very much.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure to have you on here. I'm very excited because there's so much I want to know. So, do us a favor and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been in the publishing business since 1972. My first job was at Crown Publishers in New York, straight out of school. They were the first company that offered me a job, so I took it. I really didn't have any intention of working in publishing, but it just kind of worked out that way. And excuse me, I loved it from the very beginning. And so I've been just honing my experience and learning one thing after another since that time.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure what a journey this has been for you. So did you grow up in the New York area as well?
I did. I was raised in Brooklyn and always worked in Manhattan. And then my husband at the time and I got the bright idea to move to Phoenix, Arizona, where my grandparents had retired. And we made the assumption that it would be just as easy to find a job in Phoenix as it was in New York, and that turned out to be a mistake. So that's what launched my business career, owning a business, because I couldn't make more than minimum wage in Phoenix. And that was a rude awakening, as you might imagine. Um,
Wow, no
so
doubt.
yeah. So back in 1980, I opened my first business, which was a typesetting business. And that was the technology at the time, very different than the way we create books today. But that was the start. And that lasted for 13 years until Steve Jobs put me out of business by inventing the Macintosh. So it's been quite a roller coaster.
Oh, wow. Okay. So then what happened after that?
Well, then I went back to freelancing, which is something I was comfortable with and knew how to do. And then around 2001 is when 1106 Design started, and that is also when self-publishing pretty much started. So that turned out to be just good timing. I knew how to do books from my Crown Publishing experience, and this new technology made it possible for the first time ever for authors to publish their book and distribute it to the public without using a publisher. And that was a revolution in the publishing industry because Amazon paired with independent publishing was the greatest opportunity for authors since ever.
Yeah.
And so that's when indie publishing, when it first started, meant that the author was the publisher, and the author kept control of the book and hired the experts to produce the book, and then kept all of the net revenue from sales when a book was sold. And over the last 20 years or so, that message has become confused and complicated. And now we're back to square one where authors think they need a publisher again, but they don't. And that's why I'm doing these podcasts.
Oh, and I am so, so grateful and honored that you're here to share this with us. So let's see, in 2021 is when I had the idea to write a book and had no idea how I was going to do this. And I couldn't seem to just figure it out. So self-publishing, I thought, oh, there is no way that I thought it sounded really hard to me. And so I ended up meeting someone from just from an interaction who was an editor for a publishing company, and it was a hybrid publishing company. And so I needed the help. I had a lot to put together. It's kind of like a memoir of my daughter, from her accident and how we dealt with all that. But why don't you, do us a favor and just explain to us the different types of publishing and give us a better understanding of that.
Sure, I'll be happy to. We are all familiar with traditional publishing, right? The big publishing companies. Well, back in the day, they used to be the only option. And under that model, the publisher would pay the experts to produce the book, the author would pay nothing. And then the publisher would get a return on its investment by keeping most of the revenue from sales and paying the author a quote unquote royalty. Now, that was a fair arrangement because the author did not have any investment whatsoever in the book. They got the expertise of the publisher without having to pay for it. And then the publisher took the risk and made its money back by keeping most of the revenue from sales, right? That used to be the only option. So when indie publishing first started around 2001, Amazon changed the whole publishing world because for the first time in history, authors did not need to go through a publisher in order to get distribution. Now they could do it themselves. The author could be the publisher. It meant, of course, that the author had to make the investment in the book, but in return, the author would get all of the revenue from sales because they were the publisher. Now, that was the greatest thing since sliced bread, but like the way you just expressed it was great. Authors find it daunting to think about, how do I do this? I don't know the first thing about publishing. I need to find someone who can help me. And that's still true. Authors still do need services, but they don't need to work with a publisher. What's happening today is that publishers are charging the author to produce the book, and they're taking money on the back end whenever a book is sold. So that doesn't work out too well for the author. The publisher has no investment in the book. So what entitles them to any portion of your revenue? So that's really the situation we're in now. Now, to be fair, there are some good hybrid publishers. Some of them will charge the author for the editing and the production and the design, and then they will pay for the marketing. And so they have an investment of the book in the book, and they deserve a return on that investment. That's only fair. In that situation, they deserve a portion of the revenue from sales because they're basically your partner. They're investing with you. But many, many, many of these publishers, hybrid and otherwise, don't pay for anything. They charge the author for everything, and they still take money on the back end from sales. So that's the situation I'm trying to get out there and educate people that they need to ask more questions before they sign up with a publisher to make sure they're getting what they really want and that they're getting a good deal.
Yeah. Uh, so where can someone go? Is this something you just Google and say, how can I self-publish? How can I do this or that?
Well, there's so much misinformation out there. And if you do Google something like, how do I self-publish my book? The companies, they're the great big book factories, they're going to come up first in the search results because they spend a lot of money on advertising. And of course, they get it back
Right.
because they're charging you to produce the book and they're also taking money out of your pocket when a book is sold. So smaller companies like mine, it's difficult for us to get found because we can't spend 20, 30, $40,000 a month on internet advertising, just not possible. But what we do for you, and there are others like 1106 Design that do the same thing, we charge you for the services. We help you and educate you every step of the way. But then we help you set up print on demand accounts in your own name so that You get the sales reports, you get the bank deposits, you get every penny possible in the book world, and we do not share your revenue in any way once the book is sold.
Okay. Okay. Wow. That's really good.
It's hard to explain.
So is there like a team of editors that
In
you,
yeah, yeah. Over the last 20 years, I've assembled a team of about 20 people. We have editors, designers, typesetters, ebook formatters, proofreaders, and so forth, everything to basically manage the process for you so you can have one point of contact, and then we will educate and help you through the whole process. And the benefit of that is that we have a vetted team, we have a team that's qualified and reliable, and that's kind of difficult to replicate if you're going out there on your own and hiring freelancers on your own. Especially if you don't have any experience in publishing, you might not pick the right people.
yeah. Okay, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but this I want to give you an example here. I had I have my book here, She Looks Fine, that I worked with a hybrid publishing company. It is very good quality.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm very impressed with every bit of it. I can look through, everything looks so good. You can purchase it on Amazon. I can purchase copies myself to sell at book signings and make all of the profits then. And,
Mhm.
things like that. So I also had a book that I contributed to that I had already paid an editor to edit my chapter, and then they put this together on Amazon. We donate all the proceeds to a charity, so it was something that
That's
we
neat.
wanted, yeah, that we wanted to do, and we knew that, but there's it's not as good of quality. So I can't I'm trying to understand that part of it. And how can we get a good quality book without spending a fortune?
Well, choose someone with experience. That's the first thing. Everybody on my team was trained in traditional publishing, so we still follow those best practices that you would find at a major publisher. And I tell people to spend a lot of time at a bookstore and just it's really hard to describe, but if you get a sense of how bookstore books are produced and how good they look, then you'll be less inclined to, when you're looking at websites with samples, you'll recognize samples that are not up to par.
Yeah.
That's the best way I could put it. Um, it's
And
hard to describe. I mean, it's like when you see a good suit, a
Mhm.
man's suit, you don't have to be a tailor to recognize it, but you can tell it's a good suit from a cheap suit. And the
Yeah.
same is true of book design. It's subtle, it's almost subliminal, but if you start to go to major publisher websites, you'll see what book covers should look like, especially in your genre. And
Yeah.
then you'll recognize a self-published book cover when you see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I've been tempted about to self-publish, but then I'm like, I don't know. You're kind of like that, the perfect middleman.
I hope so.
I do. I feel like you are because, and I'm not saying anything bad about this book because there are 12 of us from around the world that told our stories through this coaching program, Bob Proctor's coaching program. But I just felt like I noticed maybe some errors in there that really surprised me. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. When people go search for your title on Amazon, Amazon is not just going to show your book. They're also going to show the bestsellers, right? So if your book cover looks self-published, people might say to themselves, I don't know, that looks a little risky to me. But if your book is designed well, like a major publisher would do it, then people might say, gee, I never heard of Roberta, but that looks like a good book. Let me click and learn more. And then after that, they read what the book is about. And then at that point, it's a subjective decision. We can't we can't know what someone's looking for, and it's entirely up to them. But what the book cover has to do is stop and make people stop and learn more. And that's where cover design comes in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was something that had been in the making, and then kind of had to rush things at the end. So it was what it was. It's very important to me and it's very special in my heart. But that's just one thing I wanted to bring up to you, about that. And I'm the type of person, look, yeah, I'll listen to some books or some recordings like on from wherever, but I guess Audible, right? I don't have
Mhm.
that yet. I guess I should.
Have an audiobook?
Au- au- um, what's it called? Audible or something
Mhm.
is like
Mhm.
yeah. But I want the book. I want to hold the book in my hands. I want to highlight parts. I have my little highlighter. I'm not an ebook person, I guess is what it's called. And there's so many people that are still like that. There are plenty of people that still want to hold that book in their hand.
Yes, and the statistics bear that out. Ebooks, audiobooks, and print books are all selling at about the same rate. So, it just depends on what the buyer prefers, and you might prefer different formats at different times, right?
Yes.
Maybe at home you'd rather have a print book. I love print books. I'm always with the highlighter too, just like you said. Not in novels, but if someone travels a lot for business, they're not going to lug books around with them. Then an ebook or an audiobook would be more convenient. So
Yeah.
I advise my customers to do at least the print book and the ebook, and then they can think about audiobooks later.
I think so too. Yeah, totally agree with that. Yeah, the car is a great time. If
Yes.
you have
Yeah.
somewhere to drive, if you
Yeah.
have a trip.
And I actually like audiobooks too. After a long day at the computer, it's kind of nice to sit back and close your eyes and just let somebody read to you.
Right? Exactly. Let them read to you.
Yeah.
So, okay. So some of the questions here. Um, so what do authors need to know about editing?
Okay, there's a lot of fear at least of what authors express to me. They're afraid that the editor is going to change their book. So I can put their mind at ease about that. A good editor will not change your style. They'll smooth out the bumps in your text that you can't see, because we all know what we mean to say when we write, but it
Mm.
might not be so clear to someone reading that text for the first time. So that's the role of your editor. An editor's going to say, what did she mean here? And they will fix up things like that, as well as grammar and punctuation and all of that. But they won't change your intent. They won't change your voice. They will just make your manuscript better.
Yeah. What do they need to know about a cover design?
Cover design is very complicated. It's not what people think. I'll tell you my funny story. I had a lady call me on the phone one day and she said, "What do you charge for a cover?" And at that time it was $1,695. So I
Okay.
said 1695 and she said, "$16? That's a good deal." I said, "No, no, no. It's 1695." And she said, "Oh, no, no, you can't fool me. I know it takes you 15 minutes to design a cover. You can fool other people, but you can't fool me." And that was a very short conversation,
Mhm.
obviously. But there's a lot of misunderstanding about cover design. The typesetting, the imagery, the color, the balance, the composition all has to be right. And it
Mhm.
should start with research into what other books in your genre look like at this moment, right? So that it looks like it belongs when Amazon displays the bestsellers in the category. If a cover designer's first question is, "What do you want?" you're probably not with the right person, because a cover it can be about what you want, but it first has to be about what the buyer wants. What's going to attract the buyer? Then the inside of the book is all about what you want. Then you can
Oh,
be you
okay.
can be you, but we have to get the buyer to buy your book first, and that's what professional cover design does.
Okay. Well, that was so interesting because we had no idea what we wanted the cover to look like of our book. Okay.
Mhm.
And so we had some professional uh photos taken. We're all dolled up and and we got the photos back and I'm like, this isn't it. It's like this is not it at all. Hold on. And it was a little frustrating, but I'm also glad, that I got to see this and understand this before it went to print. And
Mhm.
then it was like, hold on, I see something differently. So when
Mhm.
you really are invested and you really know what you want.
Well, again, it's not, and people can't maybe take exception to this, but it's what your buyer wants. What does your buyer expect to see? Now, the author can do the research, or the service provider can do the research, preferably both, so that what we find is the happy medium, a cover that you love, but that also fits in
Yeah.
with what buyers are going to see on Amazon. Because, like I said before, if your book looks significantly different than other books that Amazon puts up, then it raises a question in the buyer's mind as to whether or not it's self-published, and you really don't want that to happen. So, but I have a webinar on my website where I go through what different kinds of covers should look like. And for example, a history book looks different than a cookbook, which looks different than a spiritual book, and looks different than a memoir. And so you should be working with someone who understands those broad categories and makes your book look like they belong in that category. And then you're heading in the right direction. Doesn't mean you can't have what you want, but
Yeah.
it can't look wrong to the buyer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that I didn't think about.
Yeah, yeah, because the cover is to attract the buyer first and
Yeah.
foremost. If the buyer doesn't stop,
Okay.
then you've got a problem.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I like that. Okay. Um,
So, I mean, to elaborate on that a little bit, for example, thriller covers, if you like thriller novels, dramatic novels, you'll see there a lot of times they use the colors red and black, and a character in the novel, if it's shown at all, is usually in the shadows or with their back to the reader. They have a certain look to them, right? Same thing
mm,
with cookbooks. They always show delicious food. Even if it's a weight loss cookbook, they always show delicious food. You have to do what the buyer is going to want. Now, spiritual books, on the other hand, or self-help books, tend to use pastel colors and sort of downplay the fonts. The thrillers, of course, have big, bold, blocky type. So there's certain guidelines within which you can then get what you want.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, that part we were just going with what we liked.
Hmm. And that, well, but your publisher should have
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
should have
right.
told you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think it worked. I think it works. So, I have no regrets, but it's good to hear all of this for the next time too.
Yes. Well, what we do is we always give our best advice, and we tell our authors the final decisions are always yours because it is your book.
Yeah. Well, so when we talk about like costs to produce like traditional self-publish, is there any way to give us like some ideas of how much it does cost?
Yeah, the traditional publisher process is way different than what you hear online. You'll hear many authors format the pages themselves in, Vellum or Atticus or Word, but that's not the way pages are produced by a major publisher. There's a whole art to page typesetting and page design that's followed, and the reason it's followed is to increase reading comprehension. A lot of time and attention goes into that you wouldn't even think about. Hyphens, whether or not the paragraph ends in a short word. The first line of a paragraph should never start at the bottom of a page. The last line of a paragraph should never be at the top of a page. All kinds of little things like that that make the page look good and make it easy to read and don't distract the reader. So that's part of the process too, and that's very time consuming. So probably, for a 50,000 word book, a novel would start at about $9,000 for full service. And that would be editing, cover design, interior types, design and typesetting, proofreading, ebook formatting, and file upload to your print on demand accounts. Lots of time. We probably spend 150 hours by the time everything is said and done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And what length of time is a good time to give that whole process?
Generally speaking, 4 months is what it takes.
Mhm.
We can reduce that sometimes if you have an event deadline. Sometimes it just takes longer because a lot of changes are requested, and that extends the completion date more than anything else.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I didn't even realize there were questions like where do you want the numbers, the page numbers of the book
Yeah.
to be? And just there were so many
Oh yeah.
questions.
Well, that's people don't know that every all my life, everyone is surprised to learn that the interior pages of a book are designed just like a cover is designed, and there's lots of options for doing that, which we would show you. We work back and forth with the author until they're happy with it.
How many, first of all, what's the 1106?
In 2001, there were no names left for graphics companies, so I just chose my birthday.
Okay. All right. I
Just
like that. How many books have you guys published? Do you know?
Yeah, but yeah, we're not a publisher. That's
Or
that's the
okay,
critical
sorry.
difference, right?
Yes,
So
yes. Have you, what do you say then?
I would say we produce them.
Produce. Okay, okay.
Okay. So yes, since 2001, we've done about 4,000 books.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've did many more before that. I wasn't counting back then. uh, yeah, but so we
Man.
know what we're doing. Over that time, we've actually fine-tuned the process as well. So we can make it very pleasant for authors because there's no question we haven't heard. We pretty much know what you're thinking, and we want people to be comfortable, and our whole process reflects that.
Wow. Okay, so why should they choose 1106? Why
Yeah, to keep
Yeah.
control of their book and to earn the most money when a book is sold. Um, there have
Yeah.
been, you're probably aware, there have been some horror stories of some of these big factory publishers that just disappear. The authors don't get the royalties. The companies actually disappear with the files that they created for the author. So they're completely stranded in that regard. If they want to offer their book for sale or continue to offer their book for sale, they have to start over. They have to hire somebody else to make the files. So with a
Wow.
publisher, you lose control and you lose money. If you
Yeah.
if you keep control of your book by working with a service provider like us instead, you will never lose control and you will always get all of the financial reports and the deposits directly to you.
Yeah. So why do you think most people write a book?
Oh, there's all kinds of reasons, right?
Uh,
Sometimes it's a memoir of a harrowing life.
yeah.
Sometimes it's an autobiography to leave behind as a legacy. And sometimes it's just, self-help. The business people will share what they know and to help people, or it's a good business technique to tell people what you do and what you can offer. I have my little book that has been really good in that regard, and I'll offer that for free later. Um,
Okay.
yeah, you can build a business with a book. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a big book either. It can be a short one.
You know, yes, I say books open doors.
Absolutely. Great way to put it. Yeah, and then sometimes it's just pure creativity. We'll work with a lot of people who have ended their business career now and they finally have time to do what they want and they want to write. One of our best customers has been an attorney. I met him, he's come to us for 5 or 6 books now, and he writes Western novels. And in our first meeting, he said to me, I can finally write what I want. So there's all kinds of reasons.
How many, because I meet people all the time that they're, once they hear that I'm an author, they're like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to write a book.
Mhm. It's so many people do, and it'd be a shame if you don't do it.
Mhm.
But our message is that we don't want you to get ripped off by working with the wrong company. Please, please, please put out a good book and keep control of it. That's what we offer.
Yeah, I love what you have to offer. I seriously believe that what you have is what a lot of people need.
It's hard to describe it. It's hard to get that message out. Like I said, we don't have $30,000 a month for Facebook ads. But yes, it's indie publishing as it was originally intended. It's an old-fashioned message that has since become misunderstood.
Can you describe indie publishing? Because I had heard that terminology for the first time just a few years ago.
Well, when it first started out, it was called self-publishing, right? But and then we kind of morphed into calling it independent publishing, which is really more accurate. And self-publishing has become misunderstood as do-it-yourself publishing. And that message has really taken hold, and it has led to some pretty terrible books, right? Where people think they should do everything themselves, whether or not they have experience or the qualifications to do it. So I like the term indie publishing because it plays on independence. You are an independent publisher, you yourself, and nobody else controls that for you.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I was so surprised that I had not heard of that terminology.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of changed into that. Um, so how can people that are interested, how can they get in touch with you and what do you have to offer?
Okay, you can find out all about us at 1106design.com. And I believe in complete transparency. On our website, you'll find all of our services, all of our prices, about 200 educational blog posts. You'll find design samples. You'll find everything you could need, and you can book a consultation, which is absolutely free. And if you want to sign up for our newsletter, I will give you a free copy of my book, Published Like the Pros. And like I said, this is an example of the business book. It's only only 88 pages, but it has gotten us more jobs than I can count. And it can do the same for you if you want to put out a small little book like this. And you'll get this for free if you sign up for our newsletter.
I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I feel like what you guys do is take the headache out of publishing.
absolutely. And it's really, I don't understand why anyone would walk into a business for the first time and try to do it themselves, really. I mean, you can't walk into, I mean, I could go out and buy a stethoscope, but that doesn't make me a doctor. There's always things to know in any business that you can't know unless you work in that business. And publishing is no different. So
And
yes,
the,
there are people who can make it easy for you.
yeah, and the thing is you still have to invest money.
Yes.
If you try to do everything yourself, you are still investing money. You're still hiring an editor or something, you know.
Yeah, and it's the experience that informs your decision, right? How do you qualify that editor, that designer, that ebook formatter if you've never worked in the business before? So our experience is a benefit too. We know what's good and what's not, and we can help you get there with a quality book.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm so grateful that I met you.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And I'm so grateful to have you, for everyone to hear this, because I will tell you, there was when I was in that process of writing a book, I was really, really lost. So I'm going to tell you, save this. Save this and share this video with anyone who is thinking about writing their own book, I promise you they will be so grateful from experiencing this myself. So I think that what you have is amazing, and your prices, I believe, are right where they need to be. Yes. So thank you for doing that, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Roberta. And we're happy to educate anybody, whether they work with us or not. I want authors to be able to make an informed decision, whatever that is for them. So don't hesitate to contact us.
Oh, and we'll have all of that information also listed below. So make sure to check this out, guys. Thank you, Michelle, for coming on here today. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Appreciate you too. Make sure that you too jump on over to YouTube, subscribe to this channel. You can also see the books that we lifted up to show you what the cover design can look like and should look like, or should not, or whatever. And have a great day. Thank you for being here. And until next time, see you all later.